Hello and welcome back. This word was given on 6/8/2023, and I'm going to start off explaining a vision I received. It's a beautiful representation of the New Jerusalem and what we're looking forward to. So in this vision, I saw a diamond ring sparkling and twinkling, and I saw the colors silver and like a warm yellow. This diamond was huge. It was round, brilliant, and it had a weave of diamonds on either side, with diamonds embedded throughout the metal weave. And it kind of looked like my original wedding ring. I have gotten other rings due to it not fitting. But anyway, the point is, it was rotating on a display in the background with a soft yellow. So as I was researching the Hebrew strong number for yellow, it gave me H3422 and H6669, and it explains how glorious was the ancient Israel when they entered the promised land. And so it also references Psalm 68:13, and that says, "Even while you sleep among the sheep pens, the wings of my dove are sheathed with silver, its feathers with shining gold." As we read the commentary to that, it states, a scholar, Kimchi, takes these words to be the words of a woman or of a psalmist addressing the Israelites going out to war that thought they should lie in a low, dark, and disagreeable place in the camp, in the open field, exposing to the wind and weather, yet they should be fair and beautiful and be loaded with gold and silver, the spoil of the enemy. And it goes on to say some more, but I want to take a break and explain that part. So as it's talking about going to war, you're going to be like, what war are we talking about? We're talking about a spiritual battle. As we're going towards the promised land, obviously the enemy is going to try to attack a bit more at the Lord's remnant people. And it doesn't mean let's hide away in the dark and be in secret and be afraid and be, wearing rags and scrubs, looking scrubby. It's actually saying, while you're marching into the promised land, because that is the stage that we are for many of you out there. You have passed the wilderness stage and you are going to the promised land. The Lord is explaining these colors, and lately he has been mentioning silver, and so I'll get into that. But right now I'm in notebook 7, giving some visions and dreams of that. And when he referenced silver, that's in notebook 11. So, but it's just interesting how the Lord has wanted me to share this vision with you regarding, and it's just going hand in hand in present day. So that was given on the 8th of June, and we're now towards the end of July in the same year. So going forward with the rest of the explanation of the Psalms 68:13 through commentary, yet shall they be as the wings of a dove covered with silver, and her feathers with yellow gold, alluding to the white silver color of some doves. Such were the white doves. Sharon of Lampsacum speaks. So that is a scholar who's mentioning these comments of seen by Athos, which were the white crow Avid calls, the silver foal with snowy wings, and also it may be to the time when they become of a golden color, at which time they are fit for sacrifice, as the Jews observe. They're talking about the dove, or to the different appearances of them, according as the rays of the light and of the sun differently fall upon them. So the philosopher observes that the necks of the doves appear of a golden color by the reflection of light, and this describes the saints and people of God as they are by grace. They are comparable to the dove on many accounts. Like doves of the valley, every one of them mourn for their iniquities. Like the trembling and the fearful dove, tremble at the apprehensions of the divine wrath and judgment to come under the first convictions, and are fearful of their enemies and of their own state, are humble, modest, and meek, think the worst of themselves and the best of others, flee to Christ for refuge and to ordinances for refreshments, are chaste and are affectionate to Christ, and harmless and inoffensive to their lives and conversations. And it references Ezekiel 7:16, Hosea 11:11, Songs of Solomon 1:4:1, Isaiah 68, Matthew 10:16. So it continues, being as the wings of a dove covered with silver, may denote the purity of doctrine held by them, the words of the Lord being as silver purified 7 times, Psalms 12:6, and the preciousness and sincerity of their faith, by which they mount up with wings as eagles, and the holiness of their conversations, being as becomes the gospel of Christ, and being as the feathers of a dove covered with yellow gold, may denote their being adorned with graces of their spirit as faith, hope, and love, which are more precious than gold that perish, and are called chains of gold. Songs of Solomon 1:10 also says to see 1 Peter 1:7, or their being clothed with the righteousness of Christ, signified by gold of Ophir, and clothing of the wrought gold. Psalms 45:9, Psalms 45:13, or their being enriched with the unsearchable, solid, substantial, and durable riches of Christ. Revelations 3:18. And both may describe also the prosperous estate of the church, either in the first age of the Christianity, which she was clothed with the sun and had a crown of 12 stars on her head, Revelations 12:1, or in the latter day, when her light will become, and the glory of the Lord will rise upon her, when her stones will be laid with fair colors, and her foundations with sapphires, when she shall have the glory of God upon her, and be as a bride adorned for her husband. And that references more scriptures, Isaiah 61, Isaiah 62, Isaiah 54:11, Isaiah 54:12, and Revelations 21:9 through 11. And I would like to dig a little deeper on these Isaiah, and because the Lord has referenced it's in Isaiah in the subconscious days. He mentioned that, so I think we should read into that. Isaiah 60:1 through 2. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and the thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Okay, that was awesome. I'm so glad I read that. Another version of that would be, this would be the New International Version. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and the thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Might kind of sounds the same. Okay. Isaiah 54:11-12. O afflicted one, storm-tossed and not comforted, behold, I will set your stones in antimony, and lay your foundations with sapphires. I will make your pinnacles of agate, your gates of carbuncles, and all your walls of precious stones. The New Jerusalem, the bride of the Lamb, is the title of this chapter. Revelations 21:9-11 in the New International Version. One of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls full of the 7 last plagues came and said to me, Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And he carried me away in the Spirit to a mountain great and high, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. It shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. All right, so they're talking about a diamond there. And I have another passage in Revelations 21:19. It says, The foundations of the city walls were decorated with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third agate, the fourth emerald. So when we talk about a diamond, it's also talking about a ring, because the vision was an entire ring on display. So that would be his covenant people preparing for the New Jerusalem and being in purity and perfection. So when we look up what does I'm not sure if it was yellow or light in Hebrew, it was Yahalom. It means beating with allusion to hardiness. And faithfulness and promise is what a diamond signifies. I was reminded by my Lord Abba when he had me study about gems. The crushing involved was a very strenuous, high pressure process in order to, and it goes through some magmatic pressure, layers upon layers of minerals to create a gem or a diamond. It's basically fused in lava material, and it's one of the hardiest. In a scientific term, it's carbon atoms arranged in crystal layers and bonded to 4 other carbon atoms. Tetrahedral structure. Hardiest known natural surface on the earth is a diamond. It's unbreakable. Greek word for diamond is adamas, perfect symbol of love and commitment. So when we're learning about why it's mentioned unbreakable, we're talking about a marriage, and the whole purpose of it is a commitment and a love that is unbreakable. Okay, and diamonds are used to engrave on hard surfaces. And so I feel like this word is also aiming towards kingdom marriages, because it's talking about being a bride and or marriage in general. There's a ring, and it's reference Proverbs 31:10 through 12. So if we look that up, Proverbs 31:10 through 12, a wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. The message behind that is the character of a wife. So it says here, wives are called to be excellent and they are precious. Proverbs outlines several women. But in in Proverbs 31, it notes an excellent woman. What would be an excellent woman? And it says here, okay, well, this one's not showing that verse exactly. Okay. A good woman is hard to find and worth far more than diamonds. Her husband trusts her without reserve and never has reason to regret it. Never spiteful, she treats him generously all her life long. So, Titus 2:4 mentions when it says love their husbands in that she is willing to confront him on issues of sin. Being a wife of strong character is being a wife who understands the influence she has over her family, maintains a relationship built on trust, is devoted to her husband's best interests. She has his best interest in mind. Not only is she devoted to her husband and a good manager of the home, but she also willing to confront him. Not unkindly, she will be sure he walks with God. She is concerned with his spiritual well-being while always being submissive. She wants him to be everything he can be. And the excellent wife isn't going to be anything to harm his personal gain. It's talking about the fact that there is an intimate relationship built on complete trust. The husband can go to work and he can go away. He can do whatever he needs to do with absolute confidence of her integrity and wisdom and discretion in the use of his assets and the care of his interests. His comfort is her concern. His burdens are hers to relieve. He is at ease in absence because he knows that all he has is safe with her because she cares for him and he knows that. He's not suspicious, he's not worried, he's not jealous because she is absolutely trustworthy. That is a great foundation for a marriage. Going into the New Jerusalem, God is establishing kingdom marriages now to go live in the New Jerusalem. And I am given this word to give teaching what it is to be considered like a diamond. But if you notice, the word said it's better than a diamond. A Proverbs 31 wife. And I think it's essential that we know that there has to be more than just praying for the marriage. Right now, if you have a prodigal issue, prodigal spouse, or children, this can go both ways. we're not going to gain them back with spitfire attitude and demeaning, domineering, authoritative, religious fanatic, explosion, or even, let's say you're not doing all that, scolding them and telling them you're not reading your Bible enough, you're not praying enough, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're watching all these things and pointing the finger, okay? And it kind of is like we have to look within. So we have to look within if we're talking to the women here and notice that each person has their own journey. God will take each person through a wilderness stage, and our job is to pray for, if you're dealing with a prodigal situation, this is what I feel like it's leaning towards. It's going to happen. God is going to bond this family together. But it certainly is going to take it on a slower track if we're just pointing the finger at that person, at that loved one. It's like praying. I had a situation that I grew up around, praying for praying for that person, watching that person pray for their spouse, pretty much gone all week long to church and asking all of these deacons and all of these pastors to pray for her marriage, right? But yet never home to cook a meal and eat with him. Yet never going to the soccer or the big volleyball tournaments that he was involved in. Praying for him, but not spending time with him. So scolding him, but not communicating with him in a regular way. It's like women of virtue. Just, it's hard. It's hard to be the one that has a lot of wisdom, and sometimes pride can get in the way, but other times it's desperation. And it's scary. But the word of the Lord says what a wonderful, excellent wife would be. So, certainly not going to get that person to be closer to the Lord by never being around, by just praying at church and leaving that person at home, or doing the opposite and attacking and nitpicking and being a perfectionist, saying they're not doing everything correctly. It's kind of like that is not, you're communicating, but you're not communicating the correct way. So around the same couple of days, the Lord gave this word, Din Qui DAKAH, which means we're using the purpose of learning to be crushed by the Lord. Crushed but not defeated. So in the sense that it relates to a diamond. It's becoming crushed. It goes under extreme hot temperatures. Lava infused and boiled up through the volcano, and it's now in sediments and now in lakes and rivers. And these stones that look really rough and kind of ugly that we pull out of the dirt or caves needs to be extremely buffed up, extremely polished. And that is what the Lord is doing. But how does he do that? Well, there's a lot of trials. And the only way to pass them is using wisdom. And things will go a lot smoother is, you know, Proverbs 31 wife. Or if it's the other way around, and it's you know, your wife that is, you're trying to reach your wife, you're trying to communicate with your wife, just be a virtuous man of God, loving, leading with loving kindness, leading with care, leading with prayer, but more so than praying and praying it through, action. We need action. Okay, so she is, the root word is Shin, and the S is significant because the S means Shalom. So Shin means peace and perfection. And I'm going to explain to you that Shalom is spelled in Hebrew with it almost seems like like pictures, like pictograph. And so there's like a W, one of a little symbol that looks like a W, and that represents fire. A little hook like thing, like a backwards 7, look, is wind. There's a earth, and then there's water. And it's the connection of reality of all that exists. And so this is the thing. This is wisdom coming from mysticism, Kabbalah, which is Jewish studies, Jewish mystic studies. And so it references Psalms 119. So why are we learning about, why did God give the prophetic word of Din Qui DAKAH? Because now it says, Elf, blessed are those who are, or excuse me, blessed are those, Alf is a letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Blessed are those whose ways are blameless, who walk according to the law of the Lord. Blessed are those who keep his statutes. Okay. So if we're wanting to contribute to the process of a successful kingdom marriage, kingdom family, it's those are blessed who keep his statutes. So it means we need to be virtuous people, not being perfectionists, but being righteous. So we can judge righteously, but there's a line, a fine line between judging that person righteously and then completely attacking and rejecting. So it all works a tons better if we just let the Lord do his magnificent healing and his comforting peace in the family. So what happened is the element that's being used is flame. It's also water. And then the ring is made through the earth, right? So we got 3 of those elements just in this prophetic word, which is significant. God knows why he told me to pay attention to the elements, the things that happen in the weather, stuff like that. So he speaks to us through the moon. It's the moon calendar. It's not the sun calendar. So things like that. He has appointed times through the moon calendar. All right. So, but what I was trying to get at is the letter S teaches to go on a straight path, not to go against nature or laws. Okay, and the Lord uses Maya, which means water, his holy water, to heal. So that is what you're going to want to pray for. If you're going to pray for the family, restoration, pray for fire, healing, and pray the fire of the Holy Spirit to comfort. Okay? And then pray for his, and wind, let me explain to that is his breath of life. The words that come out of your mouth, breath is coming out as you're talking. So pray that you say the right things. You don't jump to conclusions and explode. And I'm talking from my own experience because I just like to, I do, speak up and give advice. But sometimes it could be overbearing. I I'm noticing that he is perceiving some of the prophetic word or some of what I'm going to tell him before he even knows. And I feel like it has a lot to do with being one together and one with the Lord. Anyways, so the water is healing. And I pray for that, to be covered in the Lord's holy water. It's his glory. Okay? And Din means power and judgment to a limit or degree. And it references Daniel 2:25. I have found a man among. Okay, let me read this one better. Oh, 2:25. Then Aroshik, sorry, I'm not saying that right. Aroch brought in Daniel before the king in haste and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king of the interpretation. Okay, and then on that note, the overall theme of the book of Daniel is God's sovereign over history. In Daniel 2, these two emerge. The claim of God's sovereignty extends beyond the immediate story to take in all the history. Okay, so I don't really feel like that gave tons of information. So I can go to the commentary. I wonder why he wanted us to know this. You know what? I know what it is now. It just came to me. Thank you, Holy Spirit. It's Kairos moment. Because listen to this. I have found it is not strictly, this is a commentary, Ellicott's commentary. It is not strictly true that Yarok had diligently searched for any interpreters of the king's dream. However, the circumstances mentioned in Daniel 2:16 and Daniel 2:24 warrant the language which he uses. Then Yarok brought in Daniel before the king in haste. The Chaldee word used here implies in tumultuous haste, as of one who was violently excited or in a state of trepidation. Okay, and then exultation or joy that the great secret was discovered. Joy that the effusion of blood might be stayed, and that there might be now no necessity to continue the execution of the sentence against the wise men. Okay. Daniel professed to be able to do it, but such was his confidence in him that he had no doubt that he would be able to do it. It's going to be a suddenly. More of the story. Two things. Peace and perfection of the kingdom marriage and kingdom families is coming from supernatural help, from his elements. He's going to use some of his elements to heal. And he is power, he is judgment, and he's also telling us that he's using, it's going to be a suddenly, just like what happened to Daniel, that all of a sudden he was needed, his gift was needed. Well, also states that it was a Kairos moment for Daniel. So God is going to provide. This is right now, because prophetic have already been given that the prodigals were going to return. Okay, so right now we're in a Kairos moment. You might not see what's going on behind in the background. Excuse me. Everything is looking the same, maybe, or no change, or no. Maybe they're not even in the home. Okay, so, and you're thinking, this is just not gonna happen. I don't see any clues. And that's the thing. That's why God's gonna do it. He's gonna do a suddenly with supernatural help, rescue, restoration for the family. The next key word here is key, QUI, which means I am that I am. So that in itself is stating I can do all things. If I can make fire, wind, earth, diamonds out of little rocks that look kind of ugly, okay? And polish them up, and water. If I can make holy water, then I can certainly restore the kingdom marriages and families. Daka, that means crushed but not defeated, remember? So Daka, strong number 1792, 1794, 1793. And it references Job. Job 6 through, 8 through 9, okay? And it says, oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant what I hope for, that God would be willing to crush me, to let loose his hand and cut off my life. All right, so this is a little background story. So in Hebrew it says, we dak ki ni kenny. God were willing to crush me. That's what it was saying. Now, why is Job really depressed and wanting to pretty much die? Well, the story of Job was drastically crushed but not defeated. His life, he had it all. He was really wealthy. He had a big family. He had a lot of sheep and goats, and that has to do with wealth and everything. Everything was going great for him, and he would do sacrifices for his children's sins and stuff like that. Okay, But one day Satan went to Satan went to the Lord and asked about Job. He says, he is your servant, he is your loyal servant, but I bet you if I went to him and tested him, if you allow me to test him. See, every single time we have been crushed, Satan has to ask for his remnant people. Or the word prior to this, we're in a different stage now. We're in the last harvest time, okay? The last time of abundance. We're in end times, okay? So that doesn't apply, because in the sense that Satan is basically let loose out of the cage, and he can go roaming free to all of the non-covenant people without any help right now from the Lord or angels or intercessors praying. We're in a different stage right now. For his remnant people, obviously there's help. You call upon the Lord, you call to an army and angel protection. It comes within a matter of seconds. So you don't have to worry about that. But Job, in that time frame, he was sulking in despair because in a matter of days, he was getting severely, drastically tested, and everything was raptured from him. His kids all died from the house crumbling. His cattle and his sheep were stolen, and his goats were stolen the next day. So he had nothing. Then he still was faithful to the Lord, okay? And he did not turn his back. But then Satan went and asked God, let me test him again with his health, and you'll see that he turns his back on you. And so then the Lord allowed him to do that. So we're in a different stage right now. Job is still the Lord's child, okay? But he still has to ask for permission for the remnant people. All right, so in this day and age, we can call upon the Lord for help, for protection, and it will come for those that are the Lord's remnant people. There is no worry on that behalf. I actually had seen it in a vision immediately upon when there was an attack. Okay, so going back to this, then he got sick with leprosy. So then what happened is, then he was like, oh great, now my body aches and I'm infected and I don't have anything. And so his wife was even telling him, just turn your back to the Lord and serve some other deity. But he did not serve another deity, but he was just sulking. He was sulking and sulking. And there was no blame that he could think of that he has done to deserve any of that stuff that happened to him. And that was not the lesson here. Then what happened is his friends came over and poured blame all over him, stating, because he kept complaining and wallowing in despair, which you would think, who wouldn't? I know similar how he feels. Similar happened to me and my husband. So, and you would think, what did we do to deserve all of that? And anyways, the Lord was testing to see if we would turn our backs on him and choose him. But at the end of the day, it does reference a few more scriptures, but at the end of the day, it's basically stating it is not that he did any sins, okay, to deserve all of that misfortune, all of everything getting flipped upside down. Maybe he didn't have any blame before, but when everything got taken, that's when he started saying, crush me, God. Let loose his hand and cut my life. Stating stuff like that is not appropriate and not how the Lord wants us to speak in misery and in hopeless despair. He was trying to say that you found no fault, but you actually had fault, because wallowing and having pity on yourself is fault. It was. So then how are you supposed to behave when everything's going in a spiraling downhill? How are you supposed to behave? Well, the Lord wants to say that the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. We could have be a millionaire, or we could have just pennies, but you know what? He is still our God. He is still to be honored the same way, the same expression of love and devotion, whether we have everything or we have nothing. And to take the focus off of the misery, because he is the healer. Okay, so he had leprosy, but if he leaned on him and just remembered that he is God of all gods, healer, and we have to do that. It seems like people focus on, when we have money, life is great and life will just turn out and life will work its way out and we can fix everything with money, but God sometimes takes it all away, what he did with Job, to show him that everything that he had is replaceable. And if you read towards the end of Job, he talks about Leviathan, spirit of pride. So there was a spirit of pride going on. Or in Job, it was specifically talking about you can't capture this principality with a hook and with a fishnet and this and that. But the Lord has recently told me you can capture it. And it's not typically with a bunch of deliverance and someone praying over. It's not in the way that many have been stating. It has been one of the treasures that in the secret place the Lord has told me how to defeat it. And those are going to be in the manuscripts that the Lord God wants me to write right after I finish posting these visions and dreams. I'm a little bit behind, so but there is a way of getting rid of the spirit of pride. So being prideful is also having this victimized, attitude, character. So it talks about being crushed. We have to be crushed so that way we can become a Psalms 31, or a Proverbs 31 virtuous wife. Just like the Lord is working in these prodigals, or just like the Lord may be working in your wife and you're wanting a Proverbs 31 wife, start proclaiming that. Pray about that. Pray exactly what you want. Do not spend your time wallowing and saying you never change and I'm always going to have to deal with this attitude, or I'm always dealing with the same thing. It's always going to be the same misery. If you say that, yes, it's always going to be. So, and then we have to pull ourselves out of that little spiral downwards of trying to solve it all on yourself. And being crushed has a lot to do with going into the secret place and letting God do all the cleansing, doing all of the purification, doing all of the character building. And that is necessary to be overall the covenant people, the bride, ready for marriage in the spiritual sense, for the New Jerusalem to Jesus. Hope you were blessed. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you next time. God bless.